Okay, everybody, we're going to jump into this Model 18 transfer case today, and we've got everything kind of exploded here on the bench, and everything is squeaky clean. It was sandblasted, then we gave it a solvent bath, and we blew any junk out of all the pieces, and it's ready to go. So don't make it any harder than it has to be on you. Make sure everything is clean in there, otherwise you'll start to wear your bearings prematurely. So cleanliness is important. And here's our front cap and our rear cap, and it's a lot easier to put the seals in now. You could forget and have the shafts coming through, and then they're harder to tap in there. So it's easier to put the seals in now, and that's usually the first thing I like to do. If you do happen to assemble your transfer case and forget to put those seals in, here's another tool that I use quite a bit. See if you can see that okay. Okay, it's just has a chunk of, I don't know, heavy wall pipe for something. I don't know, I had a little piece left over. And if you have your shaft already sticking through there, you can still hit the seal real nice. It'll go over the shaft. So it works either way. It works right now when there's no shaft in there. What you do is you take your seal and you just secure it on there so it doesn't fall off. And it's helpful when you're under a vehicle and you're not doing a whole rebuild, just changing seals. And you can bang that right in there. And if the shaft was sticking out, it'll go right in there. You still get perfect bearing on your seal, and it goes in nice and square. So that's what we're going to do first. I am going to bang these in. There's a little paper gasket that goes down in there first. And then you bottom your seal out, and you're ready to go. I think we've got some felts in there too. We'll put the felts in afterwards. But we're going to get these seals in first, and then we'll jump into the rest of it. Okay, let me go bang those seals in, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, we've got our first seal in, and it went down nice and even. And you want to seat that down in there till it hits your paper gasket. And one thing that I get quite a few questions on is which way does the seal go in. And if you look in here, I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's a spring in there. And when you're figuring out your seal, wherever the spring is, that goes towards the oil. So spring on a seal always goes towards the oil, which would be on the inside. So it goes down. And same thing in the back. It would be toward the inside of the transfer case. So just a little tip for you. I've taken quite a few transfer cases apart where guys had them in backwards, so I know it's a problem out there, but trying to just show you how to do it the right way, and put the spring toward the oil and you'll be fine. And we're going to put on our tool again and go bang the back one in. Okay, seals are in. They're tapped down solid, and the reason they go down far is because when you put your yoke on there, you're going to put your felt on there, and you need room for that in there. Same thing in the back. I don't know where the back one is yet, but you need room in there for that, for the felt. So seat them down nice right up against your gasket, and that'll help you from having any leaks there. Okay, we're going to start prepping up our front cap here. We're going to get a bearing in there right now, and then after the bearing's in, we got to put that snap ring in there. So here's your bearing. This is a new bearing that came in the kit. It has a snap ring groove, but if it does, it doesn't matter which way it goes. Don't let that throw you. Sometimes they come with them, and sometimes they come without them. It doesn't matter. Either way it works. So there's a snug fit down in there. So we're going to get this. We're going to tap it in there. And then after it's in, we'll seat this, and then we'll get our shaft We'll get our shaft and everything through there, and we'll put our seals in. We'll get this prepped up and ready to put on the actual case. Okay, I like to get it started square in there just by hand. I think you can see that. And then I take, this is another one of those blocks again for pulling carrier bearings. They come in super handy for stuff. And it's the size of the bearing. Just going to lay that on top of the bearing. And it doesn't take much. You don't need to really beat on it. And just tap it in there. Okay, that's going nice. I'm going to get that seated, and then I'm going to try and prop that up and show you how to get that snap ring in there. So seat that down in there good, because you need room for your snap ring groove. That has to be open. So let me reposition for that. Okay, the bearing's in there, and our piece here, actually, it fits right down in the hole there, because you got to drive your bearing past the casting, so that fits in there perfectly. Now you got to kind of try and bend this in there. It's a little tricky. You just got to work at it, get one side caught, and then start to kind of wind it in there. And that's what's going to hold your bearing in there once that snap ring is in there. I got the camera in the way and stuff. It's hard to show everything, but I'm going to try and get that in, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, there's our bearing with the snap ring around it. You know, just get the snap ring started, and then I just walk a screwdriver around and press down on it, and it just kind of corkscrews its way right in there. It's not real difficult. It's just I got a lot of stuff in the way here, and I can't show everything. But get that in there. So that's your front output bearing. Your seal's in now. We're going to go after these seals next. And one thing you want to do while you're here is make sure your vent is clear. A lot of times guys will tell me they can't stop leaks out the transfer case coming out in a million places, and this will wind up being clogged up. Same thing like on the rear end. You need to vent this. So spray some solvent through there, stick a pick through there, pull it out, dig it out, pull the cap off, whatever you need to do, make sure that's clear. This one is clear. I checked it out already. But this is a common cause if you've been in the water, if you've been in the mud, whatever. Sometimes these get clogged up, and that leads to a lot of trouble. It'll just put pressure in the case, and it'll push the fluid right out. So just a little tip, make sure that's clear. Okay, just trying to make it clear for you. Here's your shift rod seals. They're not great. I don't know anybody that's making a good one of these. Here's your original. It was a nice double lip seal, real solid. They're hard to get real good seals for this anymore. But a lot of times there's a little spring on there, and that keeps tension on your rod. And a lot of times what I've seen is when I've taken them apart, these guys will bang these in, and that little spring it'll come off, because when you tap it in, it just shocks it, and that spring comes off, and everything goes to hell. So before you put these guys in, just take a little bit of grease on your finger and get it down in there. And what that's going to do is, you know, when you're banging it in, that spring is going to stay, and it won't jump off on you. It doesn't seem like much, but without that spring, if that spring comes off in there, it gets all bound up in your shift rod. just pack that with grease. When you tap that in, you don't have to worry about anything going bad. You want to make sure that spring stays in there. That's what's keeping tension and keeping the seal to your shift rod. So I'll get this other one done. Okay, and when you drive those in, drive them nice and square, and you want to seat them a little bit past this casting, the face of this casting. You want to get them down in there a little bit. It just works out better the way it seals on the rod. Just get them down in there, oh, I don't know, about a 1/4 inch or so will do, but get them past the casting here, and it'll seal better, and they'll be on a good spot on the rod. They won't get caught on anything. So we're going to drive those in next. Okay, you can see I got one seal set down in there. Again, we're just taking another one of these little stepped steel things here, and we're going to put that one down also. Okay, we got those two bottomed out nice. Get that grease off there. Okay, that does all the preliminary prep work just about. We'll stick the shaft in there, but that gets our front cap ready to go on. Okay, we just put our shaft through there. That's just just tap it with the end of the wooden hammer, you know, and get it in there. It's a very light fit. Make sure everything's spinning freely, which it is. There's your shift collar and your fork and everything here. And you want to make sure you put this in the right hole. You don't want to get it mixed up, and then when you go to put it on, it won't work out. So we're going to stick it through the left hole, you know, facing us here is the left hole. And we're going to be very careful putting this through the seal. We don't want to get that seal torn up. Oops, there goes our collar. Let me flip it over for you so you can see. Okay, there's the shaft coming through, and we don't want to just push that real hard. So we got a little bit of tension on that shaft, and then we'll just take a pick and we'll go in there and we'll just kind of go right around that seal while pushing the shaft in. You don't want to mess up that seal. Okay, let's push that in a little bit. There it goes. And you got another lip coming right now. So push that seal out of the way, being careful not to damage the seal. And we'll get that started. Oh, I got the back messed up. Okay, there we go. Okay, now we'll get our collar in there, and we'll be able to finish up pushing that through. Okay, we've got everything seated here, and we've got our shaft through there with no damage to the seal. It's critical that you keep that lip. You don't want that rod to push it and flip it out the other way. So be very careful getting that through there, and it'll be leak free for a long time. Okay, so now we got to get our whole gear train here. We got to get some new bearings on there and get the shaft in, and we're going to work on that next. I'll disassemble this, I'll pop the bearing off, I'll press a new bearing on, and then we'll start setting that in the case. Okay, let me get that taken apart, and I'll be right back with you. Alright, I just slid everything off this side here. Bearing, snap ring, thrust washer, and then your gear assembly. It goes like that. Okay, now inside here, there's a little bushing, and that bushing connects right to your front shaft there. And if that's in bad shape or that's mangled up, you want to replace that. Ours measures out okay. If it didn't, they're a real pain to get out. What I do is I chuck them up in the lathe, and I go in there with a boring bar, and I cut it out till most of it's out, and then just when it's like a piece of paper, just, you know, kind of fold it out of there. When you put the new one in, it's like with our steering gear. If you put a new bushing in there, it's going to collapse, and you're going to need to get a reamer in there and ream that to size. Generally, they don't go bad, but sometimes you get in there and the bushing's mangled up, or something's not the right size and it's flopping around on there, and you don't want that. You need to measure that bushing on the shaft and make sure you got a good fit there. Like I say, they're a pain in the ass to come out. So if you have to, put it in a lathe and just get it turned out of there. Like I say, ours is fine, and I'm going to go over to the press and I'm going to pop this bearing off and I'll put a new one right back on there, and then we'll get this whole shaft assembly in the case. So that's where I'm headed now. I'm not going to take the camera with me. It's just a simple, you know, pressing that bearing off and putting a new one on. But I'll be back with this shaft with a new bearing, and we'll start assembling this thing. Okay, our new bearing's on. We pulled that old one off, pressed that new one on, and we're ready to get the case on the scene here. I think you can see that all right. Let me try and get a better angle for you. Okay, so we've inspected our gears and they're in very nice condition, so we know we're using them. And it's still a little oily. We didn't get all the gear oil off them exactly, but no problem. Okay, now you've got your collar there. That goes in your shift fork, and we're going to lay that right in there. We're going to keep both gears together, and we're going to hook that right onto our shift fork. Okay, alright, they're in the case. Now we've got our shaft with our bearing on it. We know our bushing is good to accept the front output shaft, so we know this is good, and we're going to just send this right through. Okay, I think you can see that. We've got our two gears there. We've got our shaft through it. Alright, now in our little small parts kit, and here it is here. That's our small parts kit. We got a new thrust washer in there, and we're going to use that. And we've got a new snap ring in there. I just got to dig it out. Yep, there it is. Nope. Now there's a snap ring in there. I'll dig it out. So we're going to put our new thrust washer in there now. And that only goes one way. Okay, now that leaves us just enough room. Let's see if I can get you in there. That leaves us just enough room in here. Tough to see, but there's a snap ring groove there. There's the old snap ring. And that goes in that groove, and that holds everything good. So let me dig out the snap ring and see where it is in that small parts kit, and we'll get that on and be right back with you. Okay, here's our new snap ring compared to the old one. That one lost some of its springiness. That's why you put the new one in. We're going to open that up a little bit, get it over the shaft there, and there's another little bump there we got to get it over, and we'll get that going. Okay, when you slide it over just that little bit, now it gives you enough room to get some snap ring pliers in there, open it up a little bit, and we'll find that groove and seat it in there. Okay, we got our thrust washer in there, nice. Find some snap ring pliers. Yeah, I think these are about my thinnest. I don't know if they're going to fit in there. Nope. Let's try these guys here. Okay, that's going to open it up nice. You got to expand it quite a bit to get over that next hump. And keep pushing back with your fingers. Snap rings can be a bear sometimes. You just got to keep working at them till you get them. And there's nothing pleasant about them. Well, we're getting there. Okay, we got it up on that second rise there, and once you get it on there, just kind of push it back in with a long screwdriver. You can't really get the snap ring pliers in there easily, so we'll just kind of rotate it and push it on there, and you'll hear it click and seat into the groove. And we've got it there. Okay, so let's get this to where you can see it. There's our thrust washer in there. There's our snap ring. It's seated in the groove. Make sure you confirm it is in the groove. And that one definitely is. You don't want anything separating on you, so make sure it's in the groove. Okay, we got that set up. And we're going to put our bearing on now, and we'll put our cup in there. We'll put our bearing cup in the back, and we'll be riding on the bearings. Okay, we've got our bearing in there, and that's going to take, it's not a super tight fit, but it's going to take some tapping with a punch. And you get your punch down in the groove there, so you're not going to damage the outer cage here. And just tap that. And what needs to happen is that bearing needs to back right up against that snap ring that you put in there. It needs to be right tight up against there. It can't have any, it can't be loose or anything, because we're going to set our end play in the back with shims. That needs to be solid. And sometimes I'll just turn it around like this, and I'll brace that against my stomach there, and I'll just tap it. Hope you can see that all right. And you can feel when it bottoms out, it'll rebound on you. And you could kind of pull this back, pull your shaft back a little bit, and you'll look right in there, and you'll make sure your bearing is seated up against your snap ring there. That's critical. Okay, and then you need to take your cup, and you're just going to tap this in. You shouldn't have to beat on that or anything. It's a light fit, but you do have to tap it in. Okay, we've got that started. And when our front cap goes on, this area here is going to push that and set that cup right where it wants to be. And our gasket that goes there, and this cap being on, everything has to be on like it's gonna be finished. because even that gasket is going to make a difference on where this front cup is set, and in turn that's going to make the difference of where this back cup is. This back cup will be out into this area here, and this is where we're going to shim it, and we're going to get a certain amount of in-out play. I mean, this is exaggerated now. We're going to get a certain amount of in-out play according to some specs. I like to shoot for 6,000ths all the time, and we'll put a dial indicator on that, and I'll show you. We need this to go back and forth 6,000ths. You don't want those bearings tight, you'll overheat them and ruin them. So this has to be shimmed carefully, but it can't be shimmed properly without that front cap on. So we've got our bearings on, we've got our gear set in, we've got that in far enough where we can walk it in with when we bolt that up, and we're ready to get this other rod through this other seal here, put a gasket on, and get all that going. So that's what's coming next. I'll dig some parts out and we'll get going on that. Okay, before we put this on here, we're going to pull our cap off here, and we got to put that interlock in there. This is the one, you know, if you wanted two-wheel drive low, you'd pull this out so you could shift, but this is the one that prevents you from putting it into low range while you're in two-wheel drive. So we're going to put this back in. We're going to get this gasket set up, and then we're going to put the cap on. Original bolts were held in there with external tooth star washers, so we got new star washers on there, and these all go into oil. So we're going to coat the threads, and we're going to get that done. We'll put a little bit of just sticky stuff on there to hold that, and we'll put the front cap on next. Looks like my battery's dying on the camera, so I'm probably going to have to quit it here for a while, but I'll be back with you as soon as the battery's charged up, and we'll keep going on this. Alright, be right back with you. Okay, we got the battery charged up, and we're going to continue on with this, and we're going to put our front cap on now. Here's our gasket. You can glue that gasket down if you like, or put a couple dabs of RTV on there, whatever you like, just to hold it in place. And our cup is just below the surface, because when we start putting this down, I think you can see that lip there. That's going to push that, and that's going to set this front bearing distance. It's going to set your whole distance on your whole shaft there. So as we tighten the bolts down, that's going to push that to the correct spot. So inside your cap, now's the time where you have to put this guy in. Remember that. Stick that in. That's your interlock. And we'll just hold that in for now. And remember, because I like to put the seals in first, we got to be very careful getting the rod through that seal. We'll just go nice and easy with that. And before I put it on, I like to take just a little bit of engine assembly lube and just kind of drizzle it down in there so we don't have a dry start up in there. And then we'll carefully set our front cap over this. We'll get that started. Okay, we've got to get that seal through. Pick up that seal again. You don't want to damage those seals. make sure our gasket's in place one last time, and then we'll get the bolts started in there, and we'll start pushing that bearing cup in. Okay, now remember, these bolts are going down right into the case, so they're going to see oil on the other side of them. So we'll take a little bit of our sealant that we talked about last time on the steering gear, and we'll just put a little bit around the first couple threads, and we'll thread those in. Now you can see that we're up a little bit here, and that's because that lip is on the bearing cup. And what you don't want to do is just start tightening these down real fast, because you can crack an ear off. So you can get them snug, and we're going to tap this down, and what that's going to do is tap the cup down, tighten them a little more, and then tap this down some more, and then tighten them a little bit more. Don't just rely on your bolts to bring that cup down, because you can crack an ear off there very easily. So we're going to start bringing them down now, and I'll show you how that goes. Okay, right now we've got our bolts down a little bit. They're not all the way down. We've got a little bit of tension on a couple of them. We're going to tap this down with just a dead blow hammer. Okay, we're picking up a little bit of space under our bolts, and we're getting pretty snug there. What we're doing is we're driving that bearing cup down, and this will set it perfect. When this is tight, like I say, everything is critical here. The cap's got to be on, gasket's got to be in, everything's got to be critical. Everything's got to be in place, because the measurement is when you're measuring your end play of that bearing, everything needs to be as it's going to be in running condition. So we'll get these tightened down a little bit more. Okay, that's not too bad. We'll tap it again and torque these down. And remember, we got the sealant on them, so we'll torque them down. We won't touch them again. And then we can move on to shimming the back cap and everything, and getting our bearings set just right. So I'll tighten these down and be right back with you. Okay, we just went around here in kind of a crisscross pattern, tighten our bolts down. Knock that down one more time, and we've got everything tight. Gaskets in, interlock pins in, everything is in place. So we're going to flip it over, get our blocks out of here. Okay, now this, you can see, this is just way out of whack here. We're spinning nice, but we've got to set that in play. And this is a very critical part of this process, is getting this end play right. So that's what we're going to do next, and we're going to use some shims. And this bearing cap, you see your cup is going to sit. Your cup is going to sit in here. Your shims are going to be on the outside of that. Your shims are going to go over your cup to let it slide in and out. So we're going to get this set up. I'll show you how to put the shims in, and let me reset everything, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, here's our rear cap. Again, remember, we got the gasket in because it's easy to put it in now. This is our original shim pack, and I've got these cleaned off pretty good. And whenever you have your original shim pack, it's a good place to start. If you put these on and put your cap on, it's a good place just to see where you are. If you're too tight or you're too loose, you'll know right away, and you can add or subtract. if somebody brings me in a transfer case in a box and the shims are missing and everything's a mess, I'll actually set this cup in there and I'll measure my, without the cap on, I'll measure my my clearance here, and I'll shoot for maybe 2 or 3 thousandths. And then what I'll do when I get that right is I'll put this up here, and then I'll measure this gap in here, and that'll be my shim pack if I don't know where I'm starting from. And then you just tighten everything up and knock it around and make sure it's right. But when you have your original shim pack, very good place to start. Make sure they're clean, make sure there's no dirt in there. And we're going to put this on without any of the emergency brake backing plate or any of that stuff there, because we just want to know where we're at with our clearance here. So these will go on, and then the cap, and I'll get some bolts here and we'll get that going. Okay guys, I got this kind of just set up so you can see what's happening here. This is not a good way to set it up, but it's the only way I can get the camera in there. And what we're checking right now is the in-out play here. So we've got roughly 14 thousandths there. This is not the way you should set it up though. I just wanted you to see what we're checking here. What I have is the indicator on the table, and you actually want your indicator mounted right to your case there. Let me try and get you in there. Okay, just to show you that little bit, I had it mounted right to the table here. But mount it to your case, and make sure it's solid on your case. I put it right there where the intermediate bearing goes, and I set it up like that, and then I check it. But you couldn't see that in the camera, so I just wanted to show you what the what the reading was going to be. But get yourself a nice rigid mount, and I think you can see this. You could either indicate it right on the end here, the in out, or some guys like to grab it right there where the spline is. That's an easy place to get a reading. But just make sure you're rigid, you're mounted to your case with the magnet, and you're nice and rigid. And we got to take some shims out now, because we got 14 thousandths there roughly. So we're going to take probably 10 thousandths out, and set this up again and see where we are. And I usually like to start out loose if I can. That doesn't squeeze the bearings if you make a mistake or something. So our shim pack is heavy. We're going to lighten that up. I'll just pull these bolts out again, pull 10 thousandths out. We'll reset up and check it again. Okay, we got a decent setup on there now, and here's the shim we took out, and that was a 10 thousandth shim we took out of there. And the good thing about starting big is when you pull a shim out, you know that you're going to push the cup in till its final resting place. So if you started with the cup too far in and you needed to know where it was, you're gonna hit with a block of wood and a hammer. You're gonna start wrapping this a little bit. You just bang that in. That's gonna bring the cup out again. You need to make sure that your cup is seated up against this rear cap. And again, we know the front one is because we put that cap on and we push that in there. And in the end, I'll take a dead blow hammer, and I'll knock it here this way, and I'll knock it here this way, just to make sure everything's seated, and we'll check the end play one last time. But right now, we got this zeroed out, and we're pulling all the way out, and we're at 0, and we go in, and we get just about 3 thousandths, 4 thousandths there if we turn a little bit. but I check it in a couple places, and 4/1000 is pretty good. You could shoot for anywhere from 2 to 8 is really fine. Any more than 8 you don't want, it's just too sloppy. So at 4/1000 we're real good, and we're gonna tap this, check it one last time, and if everything is still at 4/1000 we're good. We'll pull this off, and I'll show you what I use to seal those steel shims from leaking. So let me pull this indicator off, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, I think you can see the indicator there. Okay, we just took a small dead blow hammer and gave it a couple wraps that way. Gave the shaft a couple wraps right here, and what that does is just kind of seats everything. So now we're going to check this one last time, and if you're careful you don't really have to go through that, but it's a good idea to do it just and then recheck your end play. So we're right at 3.5, 4/1000, and that's perfect. It's exactly where we want to be. That's a good setup. That'll run a good long time. And now we're going to pull this off. And one thing that's easy to forget, but don't forget it. I mean, if the seal wasn't in there, it's no big deal. Don't forget your speedometer gear. That has to go in when this comes off for the last time. Don't forget to put that in there. Again, I'm a fan of putting the seal in first. You could put it in later. You could stack this in there and then put your seal in. But then you're fighting with the shaft in the way. It's not a big deal if you got a tool, but if you don't and you're just doing it on your bench, it's easier to drive the seal in, first. So let me pull this off again, and we'll get these steel shims prepped up to be leak-free. Okay, here's our shims just on a piece of newspaper, and they're not supposed to leak basically because they're squeezed so tight, but you could see stuff has been dripping through them. And you need some kind of sealer on there that seals them but doesn't add thickness and change your end play here. So what I use, I think you can see that, it's just some Permatex high-tack sealant. And I just give them a light coat. And this won't add any thickness, but it'll give some kind of sealing to them. So I'll let that side dry, and we'll come back and we'll give the other side a coat. And then we've got to get the intermediate shaft in there and do all that stuff. But we're going to get these gaskets figured out, and we got the speedometer gear on there so we don't forget it. So I'm going to take a short break here. Got to go get the chickens fed and watered and stuff, and take care of some animals. And when I come back, we'll finish putting this transfer case together. Okay, see you in a bit. Okay, I've got both sides of those sprayed with the sealant, and I just got some bolts holding them in position there, and that's going to seal those, and you won't get any drips through there. And speedo gear is on just so we don't forget it. Our cap is ready to go. We've got to get the backing plate and stuff figured out for the brakes, but before we do that, that's what the old shoes looked like over there. There, you can see how bad this transfer case was leaking. Before we do that, we're going to get the input shaft. We're going to get the intermediate shaft and gear in there, and that'll finish up the gears in the case. And then we got to move on to the overdrive. We got to get an overdrive in this transfer case, but we still got to get the T90 done. And I've got all parts sitting here for that. But let me get set up for the intermediate gear and shaft and bearings and thrust washers, and we'll get that shaft in there and button up all the gears and then we'll move on to the brakes. Okay, so just give me a minute and I'll get set up for that. Okay, here's all the pieces we need to get this together. We've got our gear. This is that hardened shaft. We've got our thrust washers. And on the 1 1/8" shaft, these are caged. On the 1 1/4" shaft, they're individual needle bearings. Okay, so to hold these guys in, we need these in the case first. A little detent there fits in the hole in the case. If you don't have transmission assembly lube to stick them, you could use petroleum jelly. Don't use grease, but trans lube is the best stuff to use. You know, something that's meant for transmissions, transfer cases and stuff. And you just coat the back of that and we'll stick it in the case. And that holds it nice. And this lubricates and it dissolves real quick when you get lubrication in your transfer case. So we'll put this on both. And we'll stick this one in. Okay, now they're held real good, and we'll carefully get our gear in there. And if you're looking for this stuff, this is ATP transmission assembly lube. It's getting hard to find. I used to be able to get this stuff anywhere, but it's getting hard to find now. I know you can still get it at Summit Racing. They're on the internet or whatever. You can still get it from there. But most of the auto parts stores don't carry it anymore for some reason. I don't understand that. But one tub will last you for years and years and years, even if you do a lot of stuff, because you don't use much of it. So here are our bearings. We'll drop that one in and that one. Get ready to put this in. Now let's talk about this shaft a little bit. This is make sure you can see this. Yeah, this is Novak's shaft. They're the only people I know of that are making a super hard, really hardened shaft for this transfer case. And I like it. I use it all the time. And it's wonderful. And they cut these two little grooves in here. And they give you these O-rings. And they want you to put those O-rings on there for sealing. There's no way to get this in the case without ruining the O-rings. So it's kind of a waste to put them on. You know, there's a million different ways I've tried to get it to work. It just doesn't work. You could take a little bit of Permatex or some gasket material and kind of smear it in that groove there and smear it in that groove. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think the O-rings are necessary. The fit is so tight that they don't ever usually leak here or in the front. So it's really no big deal. Don't worry about that. Don't drive yourself crazy if you get this kit and you're like, why can't I get the O-rings in? It's just not necessary. So this shaft has to go in from this side. That's where you put your little lock plate. So we're going to get that started in the case, and we're just going to pick up our first thrust washer. Okay, and then we'll take our gear. Bring this closer here. Let's see if that's in focus. Okay, we'll take our gear and we'll set it in there carefully without messing up our thrust washers. Okay, just kind of carefully roll it in there. I'm holding that front thrust washer so it doesn't get away. And we're just going to kind of set it down in there. losing our front thrust washer a little bit. They do go in a little snug. You just got to kind of keep fussing with it till you get it. Yeah, we're losing that front thrust washer a little bit. And let me pull that out and see what's going on. Yeah, we're losing that thrust washer. Let me see what's going on and make sure we got our dimensions right in there. Okay, we got that. It just slipped into place. And while that's starting to go through, you want to get your slot lined up over here. So we're just going to push that through. Make sure we get through our front bearing and our thrust washer. It looks pretty good in there. And now's the time you want to figure this out. Make sure this is going to work out for you. You just kind of want to eyeball that because it gets kind of tricky. I think you can see that. It gets kind of tricky to move that after too long. So, looking pretty good. Maybe turn it a little bit. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Okay, we're going to tap that through easy. Okay, now you got to make sure you're coming through your thrust washer real good. Okay. Okay, we're still spinning freely. It's coming through nice. Okay, we just got to tap that in just a hair more and then put our bolt and our lock plate in there, and our intermediate gear will be in there. Okay, let me get that going. Okay, our shaft is in, and when you look at this plate, when the shaft is in there, you don't want it kicked out this way. You don't want it in that way. You want it nice and straight. That means your shaft is in the right position there. If the shaft isn't far enough in, this will lose torque and the shaft will wiggle. But it's in there tight now. And one thing I like to do, I don't know if you can see, there's a hole in here where these bearings get some oil. Again, I like to take some engine assembly lube, just drip it down in there, and then turn it, get the other side. We'll fully lube this and move it before we start anything up, but I just like a little bit of lube in there, so there's no chance of a dry start or anything. And we're going to talk about lubrication quite a bit. You saw when I put those thrust washers in there, they had a bronze coating on them. And if you put regular 90 weight lube in here or something with extreme pressure additives, it's just going to eat up your thrust washers, and your gear will start sliding around, and everything will go to hell. So you got to put the right lube in here. and I'll show you what the right lube is, and you could decide for yourself if you want to use it. A lot of guys for some reason don't like to use the right lube, and they just put regular 80-90 in their whole Jeep, and they wonder why it's not shifting and lasting a long time. Okay, we've got plenty of oil in there, no dry start there, and basically we've got the transfer case built at this point. Like I say, we've got to do an overdrive. I'm going to show you the brake setup in the back here. I'm going to show you how to put the yoke on without screwing anything up, and how to get the proper torque. We still got to put the poppet balls and springs in where the shift levers are going to go. But that's your basic rebuild right there, and everything is going good. I'm happy with all our tolerances. That was a nice case to rebuild. It wasn't really messed up, no bad gears or anything. So let's get working on a few more things. I'm going to clean up a little bit, and we'll go for the front yoke, and we'll get the rear brake set up. Okay guys, we're getting ready to put our front yoke on. Before we do that, I want to just run through the gears with you and show you what's going on in here. Right now we're in two-wheel drive. Your sliding gear is here. Power from your transmission will come through, and that will give power to your rear shaft. Oop. And the front is not going to get any power. So this is two-wheel drive. Now when you want to put it in four-wheel drive, this is the lever that activates the collar for this guy here. So that'll come out. You'll get your power from your transmission, and now you have power to both shafts are locked tight. Okay, now when you want to go to neutral, that's this lever. It's going to put this right in the middle here, and that shaft is just going to free spin. But here's where you're going into 4 low. You can see these are kind of they're just square cut gears. This gear has to mesh with this gear. When you're shifting to low, don't just bang it in there. Basically what's happening is this gear has got to mesh with those gears and slide back. So you want to be at real low speed when you're doing that. Maybe you see it here, you realize what's happening, you be a little more careful with the transfer case. And that right there is 4 low. And you'll see, because we have that interlock in there, you can't take it out of 4-wheel drive here. You can't go into 2 low. Again, some guys pull it out. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. There are some times where you could use 2 low, but that interlock makes sure that you can't go in 2 low. And that's what's going on right there. So when you want to come back out of 4 low, you'll hit neutral first, and that'll put you there, and then you're back in 4 high, and when you take that out, that's free, and you only have 2-wheel drive. So just want to give you guys a visual of what's going on in here, and how things are banging around and stuff when you're just horsing those levers around. Just be kind to your transfer case, basically. A lot of times, I'll get them in here and these gears will be wiped out here. Intermediate gear sometimes will just be wiped out, and this guy's just horsing it into low range. Try not to do that. Okay, on to our yoke here. This is going to go on here like this. This felt seal goes right here. And a lot of times why you get leaks out of this is that seal, that rubber seal, gets hard and wears a groove in here. This one is in very nice shape. You can't even feel anything with your fingernails, just a little discolored. We're going to put some grease on that to give it a fighting chance when we start up the first time. We're going to grease this real good. This is just like a dust shield, and it kind of keeps grit and junk from going in there. We're going to get that slid on there. We're going to clean up some of those nuts and washers I got there. And then this is going to go down to 120 foot-pounds. And don't just put a big impact gun on there and bang it down real hard. Use a torque wrench. We're going to get that tool out that holds the yoke and stuff, and I'll show you. We'll torque that down. Sometimes you got to chase it around a bench a little bit to get that heavy torque on there, but we'll get it. For right now, I'm going to grease this up, put this in here, get some tools out, and set up for putting that on with the proper torque. Okay, we've got our big long pulling tool on there, and that's what's going to hold the yoke. And we've got the nut on there, we've got a washer, and this is the only good way I know to hold them. And if you use a pipe wrench and stuff, it can get away from you. It's an 1.25 inch nut, and it's a cotter nut. Later vehicles they used a locking nut, and you didn't need to worry about the cotter pin going in there. And here's a socket that I've turned down, kind of helps me get in there a little bit. And we're just going to torque that. We're pretty close now. We're just going to torque that, and you see how nice that holds it. And then we'll work our cotter pin and everything in there and get that fastened real nice. So let's see if we can get a click out of this. It's pretty close now. There it goes a little bit. There's our click, and I think we got to go a little more for the hole. You could put a tremendous amount of torque on that without that transfer case moving around, and if you use an impact gun you don't know where you are. So this is really the way to go. Okay, it looks like we're pretty close on the cotter pin hole. Maybe just a hair more. You always go a little tighter with that instead of looser. Don't loosen it up to line up your cotter pin hole. Make sure you go tighter. So we'll get this removed, and we'll keep moving on. Okay, that worked out real nice. Okay, there's our yoke. It's greased up. We got our felt in there, and should be leak free. Okay, yoke's on, cotter pin's in, everything is moving good. We're going to put our poppet balls in, and our springs, and on this little area here I like to take a little bit of the thread sealer and just give it a little dab so we don't have anything oozing out of that. Okay, so we're going to send the ball in, our spring, and our sealed bolt. And the same thing on this side. We'll get some sealer on this. The ball goes in. Spring on that side and the bolt. Okay, we'll get those tightened down, and I think that's probably where we're going to end this one. I've got to get some primer on the backing plate before I can assemble the brakes. So I'm probably going to get that done first and not hold up the video any longer. So next time We'll have the backing plate primed. We'll get the springs cleaned up and get all our adjusting hardware cleaned up. We'll get some epoxy primer on that backing plate, both sides. And we'll put the cap on, the backing plate, the brake shoes. I'll get the drum primed. And we'll check the surface of that. We'll see if there's any run out there. We'll true that up on the lathe. And I'll show you that all next time. But you get a pretty good idea how one of these goes together. Don't be afraid to jump in there. Just take your time. You gotta have patience with these things. Take your time. Set your end play real good. Get a good small parts kit. Definitely put a hardened shaft in it if you're ever going to rebuild your transfer case. And that's about it. We'll be back next time with the brakes. And hopefully I'll get the T90 finished. We'll get 2 of these put together. And I'll show you how that overdrive goes in. There's a few things that you can mess up with the overdrive, and I want to make sure I go over that carefully with you. But that's what's happening next time. So if you like what you're seeing, hit the like button, subscribe, send me a comment. Let me know how you think the series is going. And if anything you want to see, just let me know. And hope you're enjoying it. And thanks for watching. And we'll catch you on the next video.